Hey, I'm Dylan Klein, and I'll be talking about our first 2 weeks in the forming of groups. So our first 2 weeks were dedicated to being split into learning teams that each came up with ideas for our event. After a week, each group pitched their ideas, and then we voted for one. After that, we started trying to work out some of the details of our event, but this turned out to be a huge time suck because there wasn't much communication between the groups and our instructors, so we ended up pivoting later.
Hello, this is Michaela. So in our third and fourth weeks, we decided our original event idea. And then some problems that we faced during these 2 weeks were not selecting group leaders for the business teams. So this created a lot of problems in communication further on in the project, and that's something we should have resolved earlier.
This is Matthew, and in our fifth and sixth weeks of the project, we had to make a pivot from miscommunication with Meg, and our original idea for Art Walk was what we ended up doing for our event. And when we told this to Meg, it didn't seem like it had a clear goal in mind, and the target market wasn't clear. And Meg told Sydney that we couldn't do the event, but instead it meant that we just had to revise what we already have. So ultimately, the next 2 weeks after that was spent trying to find another event idea that caused us to go back and forth. And in this process, Meg wasn't there. We learned from this that the mistakes made early on were due to miscommunication with the professor. And although that communication could have been better, and if I had communicated to Meg instead of telling our whole group just to reaffirm what Meg had said with such a big idea change, then our project wouldn't have pivoted so hard and caused so much distress because people became uninterested in our event after we had to pivot and then pivot back and then pivot again from two different ideas, which included two different BMCs. We finally got ourselves together, and after that, it was preparing for the event.
Before we pivoted to the final iteration of our event, the marketing team mainly focused on promoting the overall marketability of the event by suggesting things that would make it more appealing to our target market. Once we did make that final decision on what the event was going to look like, however, we were able to create all the traditional promotional materials, despite a few hiccups on my end in particular.
To prepare for our event, the operations team met with Faith Life in order to tour the event space and made a layout, as well as took care of supplies needed, such as food and craft supplies, tablecloths, and any other materials we needed in order to keep the Faith Life space clean and decorations.
Hi, my name is Sydney, and I was the finance manager. We started off with writing our budget and just making sure that we had a good revenue stream that would supplement all of the costs that we had. And I think our biggest revenue stream and success that we had was our Viking Funder page, and we ended up making quite a bit of revenue, and we exceeded our goal for our income, so that was a success.
Operations day of event. So me and Elijah, this is Augie talking. Me and Elijah showed up at around 3:30 before the event, and we worked for about 4.5 hours just getting the event exactly like the layout wanted, as well as setting up all our sponsors and with their spots, such as like Red Bull and Woods Coffee. Yeah, I was very proud of how we took what was on paper and put it into actuality. And yeah, I think we're all very happy in operations. Some problems that arose was, as operations team, we had assigned roles the previous day for who would be doing what during the event. And those roles weren't necessarily stuck to. A lot of people end up wandering and not doing what we originally had planned them to do.
Preparation for the day of the event for marketing, we printed out a bunch of flyers that we handed out, put in bathrooms, put on tables all around campus, hung up in different places, passed out really to make sure that it was kind of a wide spread out. I don't know if everyone knows about it. And then we also made posts on what time people should be there, you know, what activities, how we were excited for everyone to come, all that. And then we also hung up banners and we hung up posters outside of the event as well to attract people to come in. The posters also had a misprint on them, and they didn't say where the event was. Wait, did it say where the event was?
Did say what the event was?
It didn't say what the event was, and it didn't say the time.
A review.
So next time we should review everything that goes out before it goes out. We had problems of money. I didn't have enough money. I could have bought way more posters and more flyers, but I only had like $16 in my account. The fact that we didn't have access to a budget was really complicated for us because we could have done a lot more with that. And then problems, I think we could have had more people working on it and going around, but I know everyone was pretty busy, so that was kind of hard to arrange.
This is Madison, and on the day of the event, the finance was focused on using iPads provided to keep track of all the money donated to IDEA directly and to pay for crafts that the guests participated in at our space.
And my name is Elijah Kirk, and we believe we met the standard because through our event, we got it all done, people showed up, and it was fun for us. We spread the brand over the IDEA Institute and put out a lot of awareness, got other students interested and members of the community, anybody who wandered in, and we raised some funds. We grew the seed fund, and so we believe we met the standard, crossed everything off the checklist. And we rose over $800 doing it.